Get fun, in-depth coverage and analysis from the latest in professional wrestling in AEW, WWE, NWA, Impact Wrestling, or the world of entertainment. From hit TV shows to your favorite sports like the NBA or NFL. All things music, movies, and beyond, while trying to make sense of this crazy world we live in. All while keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive since 2011. And now your host, live from the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., Lee Sanders.
Hey guys, what is going on? Lee Sanders with you guys for this May 4th, 2026 Monday night edition of the RCWR show. How the hell y'all been, man? It feels like we have not done a show in a good little while, man. I don't know why it feels like that, but it does. You know what? I think I know exactly what it is. That's because there was supposed to be a weekend show, but I got so tied up with basically final exams, projects for this current semester. And I gotta say, some of the stuff that I've been taking as far as exams and all that, I will let you guys know I am doing very well. Was really happy to see the results of one of my favorite sociology classes, because there's a few I'm taking this semester, and there's just one particular sociology class that I just really love. And I had saw on the exam for that one, I got a B. So my overall grade for the course overall, I am sitting comfortably at an A for that. So yeah, your man knows his shit, which is great. Well, you know, it is what it is. Hey, what did you guys think about tonight's WWE RAW? It went off quite a few minutes early, yeah? Normally, they try to take it right on up until the 10:30 p.m. mark, about 10:35-ish. No, they didn't do that this go around. It actually went off at about 10:18. So that was I just looked at the clock and I saw the contract signing and everything wrap up between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns. And I looked at the clock and I said, oh, damn. They went out early, didn't they? I'm like, okay, hey, I'll take it. Sound off, let me know what you thought about tonight's WWE Raw. You could drop a comment, or if you'd like, you want to just remain silent and maybe still let your voice be heard, there is an interactive poll that's up right now via our YouTube channel, youtube.com/the RCWR show. Click on that bad boy. Got some options there. Poke my head in there later on during the broadcast. See how you guys voted. Hope your weekend was good. Mine's, as some of the stuff I alluded to earlier, was pretty good. I was actually on a journalism assignment, and I was doing a combination of man on the street. That's basically when you're going out there interviewing people. And then I also was doing a active interview where I basically had to capture a subject doing something, some type of an activity, you know, basically, and I mic them up, and they basically have to pretend that I'm not having them mic'd up, and they're just talking in their natural surroundings, doing what they normally do, right? So it was kind of cool. I ended up, one of the people that I spoke to for my assignment, I ended up speaking to a county councilman who basically oversees the police. And I believe he particularly oversees the police in, like, I think it's a grand total of like 10 to 12 districts within basically the city, if I'm kind of remembering it right. So it was really cool. You guys will see that in a couple of weeks. You guys picked a good night to tune in. We're definitely going to talk about WWE Raw, although I got to say it was a little bit of a episode. Main cusp of what we're going to be talking about tonight, though. I know there was some releases that went down over the weekend, so I'll definitely be talking about those releases. Of course, JC Matteo, Tanga Loa, New Day's Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston, we'll definitely be talking about that. Preview this Backlash premium live event that's going to be going down this Saturday. So you guys picked a pretty good night to tune in. Yeah, let's go ahead, burn through the talk of WWE Raw, get that out the way, because honestly, I'm really looking forward to talking about the whole New Day stuff. And I've seen all the opinions that's been out there, and I think anybody that's been a long time listener of my show for a good stretch, I think you kind of have an idea where I'm probably going to be going with the New Day. But if not, I think you may find what I have to say might be surprising, but I think most of you will definitely find it very enlightening. Yeah. All right. So tonight's WWE Raw featured that contract signing between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns, where I am just left scratching my head yet again, going, my God, I guess ChatGPT, the executive producer for all televised WWE shows, is in full effect because, man, if there's one thing that ChatGPT does not know how to do well is that find little attention to a thing called detail. Because here I am once again for a consecutive edition of Monday Night Raw going, where the fuck are the Usos? Because let me see if I got this straight. And those of you that watch Raw tonight, you know exactly where I'm going with this. So we have the Usos who pop up during tonight's broadcast out from Omaha, and Jackie Redmond catches up with them, and they are so excited over the fact that this contract signing is going to be happening between Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns. They talked about how they would not miss this for the world. And they're pretty much reiterating, yo, we gonna be there for a tribal chief, Roman Reigns, and yo, we know exactly what's going on here with Jacob Fatu. You can't be playing around with this dude. Like, all right, so they're talking up a good game, hyping up this contract signing, this main event match for Backlash and everything. That's great. But when it counted the most, the final segment where we've got Roman and we've got Jacob, and they're doing this contract signing, and you just knew sooner or later things were going to get ridiculously out of hand, and it did. The Usos are once again on a Monday night, nowhere to be found. Yo, that must be some bomb ass catering in the back, or they busy playing some level of Candy Crush. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but I wish we could have got something where Adam Pearce, hey guys, I know you're trying to be here for Roman and all that, but I really need for this contract signing to go without any shenanigans whatsoever. I'm going to respectfully ask you guys to stay in the back. And if you even come on out there, I will find you guys right there on the spot. I will hit you guys with fines so enormous that it's going to make your head spin. I wish we could have just got that nice little fine attention to detail. But yeah, foolish heart. Foolish heart in me. We didn't get that. But putting that to the side to see Jacob Fatu once again getting another one up on the tribal chief, making him look so fucking fierce, unhinged, going into Backlash weekend. I think it is a nice touch. I really, really do, because it paints, or rather, I should say, continues to paint Jacob in this position where this man feels as though his back is against the wall. This may be his one and only shot at obtaining greatness, lucrative greatness at that. And he's going to do whatever it takes by any means necessary to get the job done. Family be damned. I love that sense of desperation that WWE has been having Fatu lean in on these past couple of weeks. It bodes well. And then if you're flipping the script and you're looking at it from the Roman Reigns side of things, for Roman Reigns, you're going, okay, Roman is maintaining his position. He's letting individuals like Jacob Fatu know, dude, you tripping over your household, but like I'm the one that's responsible for so many households in our family. You tripping over your children's education. I'm tripping over multiple generations of our family's higher education. So he's really painting the picture for Jacob that, dude, everything that has been happening for our family the last 12 years, anything good, at the core, I am the one that is responsible for all things positive that's been happening for our family, right? And so he's painting the picture, but for Jacob, it's flawed to a certain degree, isn't it? It's a little bit flawed to a certain degree because I'm gonna tell you what the biggest problem with this whole thing has been for these past couple of weeks. And again, it's that fine attention to detail, right? If we've got Roman Reigns basically saying, yo, I've been taking care of all the families, I'm making sure that everybody's been eating on my watch. Whether you want to recognize me or not as your tribal chief, okay, whatever. But like, your family's got a roof over their head. Your kids are eating. This is happening. That mortgage is getting paid. You ain't missing that car payment. Otherwise, that shit gonna get repoed. Like anything, any and every little thing that you're not even really thinking about that you have is because of me. We haven't definitively heard Roman Reigns say that to Jacob, right? Because what Roman has been saying these past couple of weeks is very flawed, isn't it? Because here's what's missing from Jacob in this whole argument with which strengthens Jacob's position and his argument even more, which is one simple line. Okay, Roman, you talk a really good game about all these other family members eating and everybody's doing good, the higher education, but I ain't seen none of that. Let's keep it 100 here, right? Let's not bullshit the fans here that's in attendance and those that's watching at home. Let's not bullshit around. You remember 10 years ago, or he could say, like, you remember 7 years ago when you pretty much have finally turned a corner here in the WWE for the better and the money has started rolling in? You remember how, right before it all had happened, how you and me had a conversation? I confided in you then about a lot of the stuff that was going on in my family household. And you know what you had said to me? Do you remember? I'll tell you. I'll refresh your memory. You said, yo, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it because once I get to that mountaintop, yo, you ain't got nothing to worry about. You and yours going to be all right. I never forgot when you said that, Roman. Right down to the point. I remember some years back, I was in a really bad, serious jam. I tried coming to you for help. And you know what you did? You fucking turned your back on me, your own fucking family. You's a fucking Judas, Roman. Like, I wish that Jacob could have just came at it. You see what I mean when I say, like, when you're looking at this, you're like, okay, like, don't get it twisted. The match itself is going to be good. But when you're looking at the story arc here, there's definitely some flaws that's in there, right? Definitely some flaws. Roman basically saying he was responsible for Jacob ultimately coming into the WWE. Basically, he had to sign off Roman on Solo, and thus, yeah, Solo might have been the one to bring Jacob in, but all of that wouldn't have been facilitated if Roman never signed off on Solo. Thus, Jacob indirectly has to thank his tribal chief for, right? Like, but still, the flaws that you could just poke in that bad boy, right? When it's all said and done. So yeah, I had a tough time just looking at that whole exchange with a straight face because I'm just going, I would imagine that most people aren't probably really thinking that deep the way I'm thinking, but if you just love your storytelling and you love a really good story and really good attribution being applied, good proper attribution being applied, you're gonna notice those little things just off the break without even really taking and in real time, mind you, without even okay, I need a day or two or three, or I need a whole week to think about this. That's what makes shows like this so good, is that we come on minutes removed after these live wrestling shows go off the air and you're getting instant reactions. Nothing is rehearsed. There's no script, none of that shit, right? It's just boom. We spit it, put it on out there and all that. I like the positioning of Adam Pearce during this contract signing, as when things finally erupted and got physical between these two men. Pearce was trying to do his best to separate these men, but it just was not working. I love just the little things involving Adam Pearce. I really, really do, because Adam Pearce, and we've seen so many authority figures, have we not? We've had our fair share of authority figures. Some you just look at and go, yeah, you can easily get intimidated. We just need to have the Big Show just hovering over your ass, or the Undertaker. But Adam Pearce has to be one of a very few authority figures that does not mind getting his hands dirty. He knows he's a relatively big dude and he's willing to instigate himself. And I just love those little things when it comes to Adam Pearce. I really, really do. And he definitely was dominant tonight and trying to be that peacemaker and physically getting these two guys apart from one another. And I love how Roman and Jacob just continue to like physically force their way onto each other. The hell with Pearce, and they just kept going at it and everything. Contract is signed, though, when it's all said and done. Both men did ultimately sign this contract for the match going down at Saturday's Backlash. Again, it should be a really good match. When you just look at some of the stuff that's been laid out the past couple of weeks, definitely some flaws going on in there, without a doubt. But that's that. Elsewhere during the show, one thing that I was paying attention to, and I want you guys that happen to watch Raw tonight, or maybe you'll be watching it later on your DVR or whatnot. Now, I will say I did have to step out for about, I would say, almost a half hour. I had to take a very important phone call. I'm curious, up to, I would say, I think I got to about almost a little over 90 minutes. I did not see any of the wrestlers because I was hoping that maybe some of them would kind of sneak in a New Day little reference or whatever on their attire, like maybe in the form of an armband, or maybe something would be written on their boots or whatever. I did not notice anything, but there was about a 30-minute gap where I wasn't watching Raw tonight. So I will put it now to you and ask the question, was there a segment or just something where you kind of had to look a little hard for a little Easter egg reference there towards the New Day? I'm most curious. Sound off, let me and the rest of the community know. Sol Ruca had her WWE Raw contract signing for tonight. Adam Pearce was in the ring for this one to welcome her. She unfortunately got interrupted by Becky Lynch, the now 3-time women's Intercontinental champion. Looking a little extra cute as a button this week and everything. She had some concerns or grievances. Let's go with grievances. That's the better term that she put out there for Adam Pearce. She didn't like the impromptu match that she had against IYO SKY from last week and everything. And she was under the impression that she was going to be getting some time this week to, I guess, continue airing out her grievances or whatever. But we had Sol Ruca, who was not a fan of being interrupted by her and everything. And she basically tells her, look, you like to sit there and talk about how this person said this about you and this person said that about you, but look, I've heard some things too. Everybody that I've heard from, and apparently you're a rude, big, big headed bitch. I love the way she delivered that line, as Ruca said, and it's not just her saying it, right? She was getting ready to list just everybody that was apparently saying it, and Soul basically told her, "Look, you get into my business again, you interrupt, one of my moments again, I'll snatch your soul." And then Becky tries to get in a cheap punch on Soul. Soul manages to get out the way in time. Adam Pearce gets clocked in the face. He is beside himself as Becky's trying to apologize. He eventually leaves out the ring. Soul tries going for the Soul Catcher. It was a little rough when she went to the top rope. A little bit of a miscue, and but she kind of rebounded. She did kind of rebound. It was so interesting too because I put out a post on Twitter and I basically said, "Yo, the Sol Ruca segment was good, but the finish at the end there, that was a little oof, But hey, there's always next week. That's like literally what I said, word for word. And I didn't think anybody was gonna have an issue with what I had said, because I was giving Sol Ruca praise, I was giving the segment praise. My whole thing was the finish was just a little shaky there, right? It was just, but it was like, hey, okay, there's always next week, right? That's a unique move after all that this woman does. And I would imagine for every 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times that she's doing this move, there's probably going to be just that one time where maybe it's a little off and all that, right? It happens. But apparently I had I guess ruffled the feathers of one individual, and he gave me the riot act. And these days I just quietly go, okay, well, that person's blocked, because obviously they're taking it a little, to quote one of my favorite Genesis songs, taking it all too hard and everything. But I love the continuation here of Soul and Becky. I gotta say though, this current version of Becky Lynch that is running around, um, I'm getting a little tired of. I know some people are looking at this current Becky Lynch character and they kind of link it back to, without getting too political, some kind of link it back to what you're currently kind of seeing in politics, North American politics. But I don't even really know if that's the direction that Becky is going for. I don't really know. Like, if I were a betting man, I don't think that's even her angle. I think what has basically been her angle is like literally, okay, Sports Illustrated, and these guys are saying this, and these guys are saying, and she's leaning heavily into that. But it's this great, overly exaggerated character, which I know that's what she's trying to go for, right? But it's too cartoonish. I've been very consistent with my takes on this. It's very amped up. Like, if that amp can go to 10, somehow she is able to take it to 12, which is just way, way, way too much. It's too overly cartoonish slash animated for my personal liking. I wish she could just dial it back a little bit more and everything. It's not even, that's the thing. It's not even at a point where the current character, the current Becky Lynch character, it's not even a case where it's a obnoxious That's not, at least for me. I mean, maybe you guys feel like it's a obnoxious character, but I'm not even getting those impressions at all. I just, every time the character comes out, I'm going, well, which Becky are we going to get this week? Right? Which, what dialed in Becky Lynch are we going to get here? Right? Are we going to get the overly animated, character here, or are we going to get something a little bit more dialed back, a little bit more concise and all that? It just really depends on the week. It kind of feels like. I know opening up the show, Seth Rollins was trying to come out. I guess have some words with Braun Breaker. Braun beat the holy crap out of him. It was a nice way to open up the show and everything. Meanwhile, Judgment Day's Liv Morgan having a few words with what's that cute little Jezebel's name? Roxanne Perez, wondering why she had to watch Raw on Netflix to find out that Roxanne apparently had a visit by Finn Balor, and why wasn't she told about it and all of that? As now Roxanne's loyalty is coming into question. Roxanne reassures her that had nothing to worry about, and she pretty much had put Balor right in his place. Told him to leave her alone, or else Judgment Day would pretty much kick his ass and everything. Liv going, okay, well, we're cool, but going forward, you need to promise not to keep any more secrets from the Judgment Day. And Roxanne makes that promise, as we would soon see if she could be trusted. There was a singles match between JD McDonagh and Finn Balor, where we did have Dom, Liv. They all were at ringside, causing some shenanigans at ringside. Ultimately, Roxanne coming out there. At one point, I remember Liv Morgan, I think, was the one that introduced a little tiny hammer. She got up on the apron and was trying to distract the referee, and in the process, she managed to somehow toss that little mini hammer away so that Roxanne could grab it. Roxanne essentially taking that hammer and clocking Balor with it. That pretty much had helped JD get in a position where he could pick up the win here in this singles match and everything. So, you can look at this as a pro and a con, depending on how you want to look at how things are playing out here. So, like, on the one hand, we're getting back to basics with Finn Balor, right? Finn Balor is the baby face. You want to cheer this guy on and all that good stuff. And yeah, but then you're also looking at this and you're going, okay, so we've now got Balor, who's just all out here by himself. He's gone through quite a few incarnations of the Judgment Day, as we all know, but he's out here alone. And for consecutive weeks now, he's been getting his ass handed to him. When is he going to start smartening up and try to find some allies and everything, right? And then the other thing that you're kind of wondering as well, when you look at it from the Roxanne Perez perspective, you're going, well, for Roxanne, is she really all in here on the Judgment Day? It's so interesting too that Liv Morgan just keeps going, you, Roxanne, and Raquel, y'all can go after the women's tag titles. And it's like, well, how do you know exactly that's what the both of them want to actually go for? How do you know that's exactly the lane they want to stay in? What if they want more than just tag team gold? What if they want to go in a different direction? What if they want to maybe be women's champion? What do you got to say about that? And the way this kind of feels right now with the current arc that we're in, even though it's still kind of relatively early, you're just going, who can really trust who here? and how much longer until there's more backstabbing that's going on within this group, right? Because it just feels like we're on this trajectory where who, who's turning who. I'm thinking about it in the Aretha Franklin song, but and I know that's not how the lyrics go, but I'm altering it to go like who's turning on who, right? Who's turning who? Exactly. Before it runs this course here, it really makes you wonder. Ooh, and it makes me wonder. Penta and Je'Von Evans went up against the newly formed team of Rusev and All Ego Ethan Page. Rusev and Page picking up the win here. I loved how Ethan Page was essentially positioned in this. Um, Good stuff. Good stuff. I mean, this is all about continuing to amplify Ethan Page, new addition to the roster. I like the way they basically have set this guy up and everything. Good stuff. Ethan hitting a Fisherman Buster for the win there and everything. Good. It was good shit. Love what was going on there. I love the team of Rusev and Ethan. I think that can actually go somewhere. I'm really hoping that WWE stays with this for and you just kind of feel like in your gut, like, yeah, surely they are, but stranger things have happened. But no, I really hope that they continue this for as long as humanly possible. I'm not seeing anything from a comedic relief standpoint with these two, but I do see enough. They actually clicked very well as a tag team. I gotta say, I was quite taken back by that. I gotta definitely admit that to you guys. I was quite taken back by that. Joe Hendry faced Austin Theory. Henry picking up a win via disqualification. That pretty much came about as Hendry had caught Theory, hit him with the last call, then was hitting his pose when Logan Paul attacked him from behind. Remember, Logan Paul and Theory, they've been having their little back and forth thing the past couple of weeks. I love the line that Logan had said to Hendry leading up to this match too. He said something along the lines of, they can't fire me because that would be bad for business, right? And just the timing of that, like seriously, all things considered, just the timing of what he said there. I looked at this match though. This was just pure storyline advancement. Nothing much more to see. By the way, I got to put this in you all's ear right now. Have y'all been noticing that in backstage segments, WWE, they like to do these little Easter eggs of storytelling. And as of late, they've been having Austin Theory circle Maxine Dupri. And there was even something as recent as tonight. I'm trying to think who was backstage because the cameras were on somebody backstage. And I think at that point, maybe I had the TV on mute, but I just remember looking up and I saw Theory way, way, way in the background. But I recognized him because of his gear and, I saw him in earlier. And he was talking with Maxine Dupri. I know how she looks. And I was like, oh, yeah, here these two are again. What exactly is going on here? What are we angling towards and all that? Also found it more than convenient that Michael Cole and Corey Graves, they had noted that Maxine Dupri had recently participated in some events. I think one of them was a basketball game. She went to an NBA game or something like that. And then they were also talking about upcoming SummerSlam combo tickets and all that. And somehow they just kept looping in Maxine Dupri, which reminds me, there is a event, a WWE PLE that's going to be happening very soon. We talked about it here on the show, where you can basically make pasta with a WWE superstar. Well, we now know who the two superstars are going to be. You're going to be able to make pasta with Ethan Page and you're going to be able to make pasta with Maxine Dupri. Wonder how much longer before we see her come back on television there, huh? Oba Femi took on Otis. You notice how I set all that up too when I was talking about Maxine Dupri? You blink, you might have missed her. Maxine Dupri was actually out there with Akira Tozawa. All of them were supporting Otis in his match against Oba Femi. Squash. That's all that was right there. Storyline development continuing on here. That's how I'm looking at this one. I will say though, at least Otis got to show. The hell? That was kind of weird. I thought I just heard some reverb. That was kind of weird. Anyway, Otis was able to show a little bit here, so that was good. But I'm not seeing, for those of you that's like, because I know you guys are like Akira Tozawa fans and all that other stuff, I'm not seeing anything more past this. I'm just not. For those of you thinking, well, maybe we're going to continue to see some more stuff with Otis and no, I'm not seeing any of that as well. Adam Pearce chatting it up with IYO and Asuka for a face-to-face. Talk about IYO has avoided the fight for years. This is, of course, coming from Asuka. Asuka talking about how she is her senpai, and despite everything she's done to her, she never wanted it to come to this. Basically, Asuka has changed. The Asuka she looked up to is no longer here, and now she has to fight her. The IYO Asuka taught is no longer in front of her. She doesn't know anyone this disrespectful, and that IYO is her biggest disappointment, and she's done with her. And basically at Backlash. By the way, if you haven't seen the Danhausen spoof of Backlash, I remember that video from back in the day, and I remember how me and my friends were just laughing our asses off at the video package. We did not think it was the best pay-per-view video package that WWE put out. Right. And for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, basically back in the day, this definitely would have been around the mid 2000s because RVD was in there and everything. And basically you had just a tight shot of WWE wrestlers. It was all males. You had Edge, you had John Cena. You had who else was in there? Rob Van Dam. Did I mention Triple H? I don't know if I mentioned Triple H. But you had like all these people that just were looking dead into the camera, and they just were like, had Backlash, right? And Triple H, I mean, he acted like his balls were in a vice or something, because he had the Batman voice going and everything. He was like, Backlash. It's like, but anyway, Danhausen just spoofed the hell out of that going into the weekend. I never laughed so hard in my entire life. I see a question is being asked repeatedly: is WWE doing too much too soon with Danhausen? Is he being overexposed? I don't think so. I don't think so. We're still in that honeymoon period. I know a lot of people are concerned because we got him doing this stuff with the Miz, and I do remember the SmackDown from a couple of weeks ago where we really went on an extended play with Danhausen and Miz there. That was a little bit too much. I think they went a little too heavy on that. More than what was needed. I personally feel it went a little overkill, right? It's kind of like back in the day when you watch a Saturday Night Live skit, and like the skit segment is like 7 minutes long, but the joke was really, really good and popping for the first 2-3 minutes, and that's when they should have dipped, right? It's kind of one of those type of deals. See elsewhere, original Americano, Bruto, and Julio Americano took on El Grande, Rayo, and Bravo Americano. Bruto and Julio Americano and Original picked up the win. Fun match, I gotta say. Enjoyed it. I enjoyed that for what it was worth, of course. Storyline continuity here, building up towards that May 30th AAA event. Remember, between Original and the other Americano, whoever loses, basically they gotta take that mask off and everything. I would imagine Chad Gable is gonna lose. Yeah, I would imagine he's gonna lose and basically get back to basics when it's all said and done. Not much more else to talk about because we did go at great length about the Roman Reigns Jacob Fatu contract signing when it was all said and done. This was your go home show for another PLE show going down this weekend. I really don't think this show did a lot concerning some of the issues that WWE fans may be having, like particularly all the recent WWE releases, and then seeing the news of what happened with New Day, which if you're just tuning in, we're going to talk about the latest releases that happened over the weekend in just a hot little bit. But as far as trying to put the spotlight mainly on this Backlash event, did tonight's Raw kind of, it kind of did. But what I also wish would have happened at the same time, I also wish that this week's Raw could have also served as a, hey, here's what we're going to be building towards for next week's Raw and why you need to watch. But it just feels like these days, the way WWE is operating, they are one track minded. So basically, if it's a game of chess, they're just thinking one move. That's the best they can do. It's just one move ahead. That's really the best. And it's not even one of those like always be a move ahead. It's like literally we're moving here next, like, and that's all they're focused on. Like we're moving here next. It's not even think 2 steps ahead, think 3 steps ahead. So that can be a little frustrating within reason. But Joe Hendry, Ethan Page, definitely the MVPs for the night. Everything that we had got. That contract signing between Roman and Jacob. I love that Jacob got the best of Roman again, but you can easily just poke some holes through. Like I said, the Usos not being there yet again. Like, come on, man. You could easily just resolved all that too, just by having Roman Reigns say, "Look, appreciate you guys, but I got to be the one to do this with Jacob. I got to put this man in his place." And the Usos could be like, "But Us, you know what happened to you the last time," and Roman could just be like, I know, but like regardless, I got this. Just nerve-wracking. Let's see what you guys had to say via Twitter at the RCWR show. See how it's looking over there. And for those of you that's trying to figure out, where can I go to go vote and all that? So once you're on our homepage there on the YouTube channel, click on the post section. You'll see video, shorts, live, podcast, playlists, and then posts. Click on posts, and you'll be able to vote over there. Early votes coming in right now. Staying in the middle is what some of you guys are saying. Again, staying in the middle. By the way, before we go any further into the show, I was made aware, because the way I found out, actually a listener of the show had private messaged me and said, "Lee, I know you are a big fan of Rebel. I just wanted to share this news with you. I'm not sure if you saw this yet, and I was like, "Fuck no!" Once I read it, I was like, "Fuck no!" I did not see this. Holy shit! Say a prayer for Rebel, Tanea Brooks. For those of you that may not be aware, and I broke down in tears when I saw this heading into the weekend. She revealed on social media in a series of videos that she has been sadly. I just think about the worst kind of luck that a person can have health wise, and she has faced her fair share of challenges over the years. She's definitely somebody that, you know, it's just weird how everything just keeps adding up, adding up, adding up. And man, she really got hit with a big blow. She announced that she has terminal ALS. And, you know, this woman is 47 years old. And I need people to really like stop and just really think about that for a second, right? Because we've seen our fair share of people in their 40s who, when they're on top of their health, their nutrition, and all that, you know, they look really, really good. They look much younger as a result and everything. And for what's been happening with Rebel the past couple of years, you're almost at that point where you don't quite recognize her. And again, that's because of like just all the health issues that she's been having within these past couple of years. But after such a long health struggle, to get this type of blow, my heart just ached for this woman. Seriously, I just couldn't help but say, fucking A. Like, seriously, fucking A. Real classy move that AEW did over the weekend with Collision, where Nigel McGuinness and Tony Schiavone, they basically had said, hey, we're praying for your Rebel. And, it's really nice to hear. I know a lot of people say all kinds of fucked up shit about Tony Khan at times. And, but the one thing that I will say, it's just what a class act Tony Khan and AEW has been towards Rebel, and making sure that as far as medical costs and just everything behind the scenes for this woman, that they're able, to continue to be there for her and everything. But yeah, the 47-year-old Rebel, she posted on social media that basically while she was awaiting lung surgery at the Mayo Clinic, that's pretty much how they discovered ALS and everything. So, and as many of you guys know, like, there is no cure for this. It kills motor neurons, which ultimately causes muscle paralysis. It leads to death by respiratory failures, typically. So just keep that woman and her family in your thoughts and prayers. I'm sure, and I know the entire industry, when that news came about heading into the weekend, like, everybody was just reacting. But if you haven't already, please, I know one, she definitely will, because she's still looking at all the stuff that's being posted on social media. So if you happen to have your social media, definitely show her some love, but definitely keep her and her family in your thoughts and prayers. Yeah. So we got that. That was like one big, like, what the fuck piece of news that I saw. That was just some of these releases had went down over the weekend. I was quite taken back by some of these. I gotta be honest, some of the releases I looked at and I said, it's because it's interesting. We were here last weekend when the releases, almost 30 names had went down, and we, dedicated a couple of hours to talking about those people that were released. And by the way, I appreciate everybody that had ended up checking that out, whether you checked it out on YouTube or you ended up checking out the audio version of it wherever you get your podcast. We had I was looking at the numbers for the audio, and I was like, oh wow, okay, this is good. But we had four new names to add to the bus flip that went down. Jeff Cobb, aka JC Matteo, signed with WWE May 10th. He was released over the weekend, May 2nd to be exact. So the guy didn't even make it a full year with WWE, and he was given his walking papers. Thank you for your services. You're no longer needed. Remember, it was May 10th, 2025, and I remember this very well because it was Backlash. At Backlash! Where he interfered in a match involving Jacob Fatu, pretty much helping him retain his United States Championship. That's how we were first introduced to Jeff Cobb. I remember hearing the rumblings and all of that. And I remember reacting way back then going, well, Jeff Cobb is really good, but like if he is coming to WWE, like, okay, good, but how exactly is he going to be brought in? And then when I saw how he was brought in, I was scratching my head going, how the fuck does that make sense? It kind of doesn't. Like, what the hell? And okay, so Jeff Cobb is part of the new bloodline, and ultimately it became the MFTs. And it just, I never was a fan of how Jeff Cobb was brought in. Here's a guy who, if you're very familiar with his work from Lucha Underground, you're going, yo, this dude's definitely a beast. Or, you saw some of his stuff from New Japan, or maybe you happen to see some of his work in AEW. You know what the guy is capable of. So, it baffled me that this man would basically be stifled the way that he was by being put in there with Solo Sikoa and all of that. This was just, I want to be crystal clear when it comes to Jeff Cobb, because this is somebody I've been watching off and on for some years. And before he even came to WWE, I liked what I was seeing of him in AEW. Were there some issues? Yeah, but I mean, man, at least at the end of the day, he was getting more love in AEW than he got in WWE. I want to make sure I set the record as far as my position on Jeff Cobb in WWE. Jeff Cobb, aka JC Matteo, creative, all them writers, they fucking failed this dude. They didn't give him shit. That's on the real. They didn't give this dude shit. It just basically was like, you're with this group, he's the leader, just, if this man even said some stuff, I don't know nothing about it. Because every time I fucking turned on the TV, this dude was just always silent. So I don't like the way they did him. He got a bad deal here. He really did. He did not get a chance to properly shine. And that just fucking sucks on so many levels. He will do just fine though. I know he's in his early 40s. He'll be just fine. If he decides he wants to continue doing this thing with wrestling, he's got his options. I can say to you with confidence, we haven't seen the last of him involved in the industry and all that. So, meanwhile, Camacho, you also know him as Tanga Loa, he got released by the WWE. This is interesting, isn't it? This is an interesting one because I remember when he got signed back to WWE, because let's not forget, he was in WWE for the first rodeo going back around 2009. And he was there for about 5, almost 6 years. And during that period, remember when he was teaming up with Hunico? But I remember him as Camacho. Yeah, that's not a good thing. Yeah, I want people to understand. When I remember his days as Camacho, ooh, that's all I gotta say about Camacho. It's like the Lee Sanders has no recollection. No, unfortunately, I do have recollection of him as Camacho. Journeyman right here. Did some stuff in TNA, did some stuff in New Japan, the Gorillas of Destiny. I fucking love the Gorillas of Destiny. Um, when he came back to WWE, remember he signed with WWE. It was summer of 2024, if I remember right. And matter of fact, backlash at backlash. That should be like the magical word for today. Every time I say that word, we should just have Dan Housen just pop up and fucking bombard the video. But no, he was at Backlash. Remember that one, Backlash France? That's when we first saw Tanga Loa. He gave an assist to Solo Sikoa and Tamatanga in a match against Randy Orton and Kevin Owens, if I remember right. And when we first saw him, we were like, oh, okay. So, this seems like we're gonna kind of go in a nice little direction here with this man. Okay. This seems very promising. And, originally it seemed like, I'm just gonna call him Camacho because that's how I really remember him. But that's actually an insult, isn't it? Because he's now Tanga Loa. I like Tanga Loa better. Tonga, it seemed as though before Solo Sikoa really started, it seemed as though Tonga was the one that maybe was supposed to be the guy. But then Solo Sikoa, it's just amazing how it flipped all of a sudden, right? And like the powers that be in WWE, nah, man, there's more upside in Solo. We need to focus more on Solo and everything. So it's interesting how all of that played out. That's another one though, Tanga Loa. I'm not concerned about him. I just can say with confidence, we haven't seen the last of this guy involved in the wrestling business. Whether he decides he wants to do some stuff with TNA or New Japan, or hell, even do some stuff with AEW. The man's got options. I know back in the day, he even did some stuff, if I remember right, he even did some stuff with ROH. So, I mean, great hand to have. He's another one that really wasn't properly utilized, sadly. I mean, he definitely got the raw end of the deal once Solo Sikoa just starting to heavily be leaned into more and more and everything. Next up, New Day. This one stings. I'm not going to lie to you guys. This one definitely stings. Let's first start with Xavier Woods. I've watched this man for a long time. I've watched this man's career. I remember this dude back in the days of TNA wrestling when he was Consequences Creed. That's how far back I go watching him. And I thought he had a great look, great offense. I thought he was very solid in the ring. I still remember the tag team that he did with Jay Lethal, and they were called Lethal Consequences. I don't know if you guys remember those times. Shout out if you do. And then eventually, he called himself Austin Creed. Lot of fun times there in the TNA days and everything. This dude, a journeyman in his own right, first signed with WWE in 2010, and I tell you, as a person of color, as a black man, when I saw Xavier get signed to WWE way back then, Because I still remember to this day. I remember how excited I was. They're like, oh shit, they got Austin Creed. I'm like, fuck yeah. And I just saw so much promise, so much of an upside in this. I felt that this was a great grab by WWE, and not for nothing, when it was all said and done, for WWE, it was definitely a good investment. I mean, think about that for a second. Sign this dude in 2010, and here you are, 2010, like 16 years later. That's a hell of a good ass run. And during that time, to watch this man mature and go from being a pro wrestler to thinking about his passions in gaming and having a really successful gaming channel and all that, and just everything he was able to do with that gaming channel, up, down, down, a very popular channel. I mean, just gazillions of fucking followers and everything. If there's one bad thing that you could say about Xavier Woods, it's the fact that the Page sex tape. That's probably like the one negative, the one bad thing that you can say, where you're like, man, this fucking dude and Brad Maddox, filming this girl, they're having their way with her, and doing all kinds of, because she was so young at the time, and everything, right? And but like, and, it's interesting when all that shit went down. I remember being here on this show, and I just remember saying, wow, you would have thought that when that came out, Xavier Maddox like instantly gone or whatever, but like they continue. Eventually, we know Brad, he got shown the door, but Xavier kept sticking around, and it was like, And you just can't help but wonder if behind the scenes Vince was just, oh, you got some freak in you. I need to keep your ass around because you know the real deal. You know what's up. You just can't help but wonder, right? But I look at Xavier Woods and just, everything that he's been able to accomplish, in and outside of the ring. And besides that one blemish, and it kind of seems like he's turned his life around for the better, when it's all said and done, past, that whole little period and all that. Um, it just kind of broke my heart to see that WWE, and let me really stress this, TKO. It saddens me to see that TKO could not work something out with this man. Now, he did put up a post talking about his release. I definitely want to pull that up for you guys. We're definitely going to get to Kofi Kingston as well, because that, what Kofi Kingston had to say, interestingly enough, Kofi and Xavier, similar words that they put out when you really take a step back and you think about it. Xavier Woods, aka Austin Creed, here's what he had to say. For the past 16 years, WWE has been my home. It's where I grew up, found myself, failed, learned, and got to live out things the younger version of me could only dream about. When I first walked into FCW, I just wanted a chance to prove I belonged and to bring something different to professional wrestling. That chance became a life full of moments I'll carry with me forever. WrestleMania championships, WrestleMania championships, King of the Ring, arenas around the world, and the gift of connecting with you all by being myself. The New Day gave me a bond with Kofi Kingston and Big E that I'll cherish for life. You believed in us, even when our ideas were wild, and because of that, we got to show people that being unapologetically yourself is a strength. Up, up, down, down became another piece of that same mission, a place for joy, friendship, and humanity. I'm so thankful to everyone, past and present, who helped build it brick by brick. To the locker room, producers, trainers, crew, camera teams, ring crew, everyone behind the scenes, and the props department, thank you. WWE has the most special and hardest working props department that you'll ever find. Love you guys, and none of this happens without you. And to everyone who has been part of this ride, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for letting me be Xavier Woods. Thank you for giving me the confidence to walk away as Austin Creed. So letting it be known without a shadow of doubt, hey, we haven't seen the last of this guy, and he's definitely going to be in a ring. And I would imagine he probably, some type of a 90-day no-compete clause and all that, multi-time tag champion. Where do you want to go? Like, what hasn't this guy won, between TNA and WA? WWE, Deep South. Wherever you want to go, like, we haven't seen the last of this dude, and he's still in his 30s. Let's make sure we really put some respect on this guy. This guy is still in his 30s. He's not going to turn 40 until later this year. So, still young, still got a lot to contribute and all of that good stuff. I do want to talk about, of course, because we got to make sure we put a nice pretty little bow on New Day here, right? But let's make sure that we're talking about Kofi Kingston here. Kofi Kingston, here's a man right here that joins a elite list of people that basically has won a championship at WrestleMania. Kofi Kingston was with the WWE 20 years. 20 years. Really stop and think about that. 20 freaking years. This dude signed with WWE in 2006. 20 years. You just thought this guy, as well as Xavier, that these were lifers, that when it was all said and done, they were going to easily transition into executive roles, whatnot. And, they were going to be with the company through and through. That's what you expected, right? And yet, in a shocking move, Kofi Kingston, makes his exit. Definitely a future Hall of Famer. The first ballot Hall of Famer. There's definitely no doubt about that. Multiple tag team time champion. Fact that this guy is a one-time WWE champion, Kofi Mania. I still remember it vividly this very day. I remember being on the air. I remember doing the post show. I just remember how excited I was for Kofi, and it was a great moment for the Black community, wasn't it? For our community, it was really an awesome fucking moment. We felt like, fuck yeah, like finally, like we're really turning a corner here for the better and all that. And even though it was a short World Heavyweight Championship run, man, did we enjoy being on cloud nine there for what it was worth. Multi-time Intercontinental Champion, 3-time United States Champion. What hasn't this guy won? He's practically won every single thing that there is. He's like almost a Grand Slam champion in his own right here and everything. This was a shocking move. Now let's talk more about New Day. Now that we kind of are starting to understand some of the news that's been coming now. Shout out to Mike Johnson of PW Insider. But basically, New Day, last year, they just inked new deals, allegedly. And these new deals, I'm hearing different things. On the one hand, I'm hearing 3 years. On the other hand, I'm hearing this new contract that they signed. It should have taken them until at least 2030. But these new contracts, they signed these re-up deals last year. And now TKO hits them up and goes, hey, we need you to restructure your contracts here. We need you to take a little bit less. Whether it's a little bit less or a lot less, we need you to take less. Right? And shout out to both of these men for going, no, this is what you need to honor. Like, no, we're not going to take less. This is, and look, until we hear it from them, this could have went in two different directions. Either they were like, how much of a cut are you talking about? And maybe to their credit, they said, look, we're only willing to go down to this level, nothing less than that. And that wasn't good enough for TKO. Or it was a case where TKO was like, look, we need to restructure your deals. It needs to be this. And these guys are like, that doesn't cut it. No, we're not doing that. And now we have a case where TKO, they could have easily decided, well, okay, look, we're not going to use you guys. So let's just pay these guys and just to sit on their ass or whatever. Or you just basically go, okay, well, since we can't agree, let's just go on ahead, maybe a 90-day non-compete and, free you up or whatever. This is very nerve-wracking. I don't know. Maybe I'm a foolish heart here, but I just got an old school mentality here. When you agree to terms of a contract and everybody is in agreement and everything, the salary, all of that shit. I've always been one of those firm believers, well, then this is what you need to honor. This is what you signed. Like, this is it, right? That's it. So let's stick to that. But to then just sign this deal and then come back months later and say, we need to change your contract. Now, for TKO, granted, maybe because I always like to talk about looking at things from a business perspective. Maybe from a business perspective, they looked at the merchandise sales and I'm sure we'll learn a lot in the coming weeks of just how well or maybe not well New Day was doing as far as the merch sales. Like if they were at least still in the top 10. I'm particularly going to be paying attention to Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics. I would imagine he's probably gathering all that information up as we speak and everything. But I'm curious if New Day was in the top 10. I know that, if you bear with me a second, WWE top 10 merch sellers for 2025. I saw this list. Let's see if I can. Yes, here it is. Here it is. So according to this, 1, 2, 3, hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So for 2025, and this has been confirmed by Sports Illustrated and who else? Wrestling Observer. These were your top 10 merch pushers for 2025. No particular order. John Cena, AJ Lee, Alexa Bliss, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Jacob Fatu, Jey Uso, Penta, Rhea Ripley, Roman Reigns. Those were your top 10 merchandise pushers in 2025. I don't know what was going on with New Day in 2025 and all that. I don't know if TKO was like, what's up with the merch sales? But if the numbers weren't quite adding up, then maybe for TKO, it was okay, these guys are getting paid all this money and we aren't really getting a return on our investment. Let's either try to restructure these deals or, if we got to cut them loose, then we got to cut them loose. And it kind of sucks that, this is the type of world that we live in now, because it just feels so dirty, doesn't it? Because you hear stories from yesteryear how Vince Sr. would take care of certain boys. Once they pretty much were aging out of the business, he made sure that they had some type of job in the company for life when they were done in the ring. And a lot of those same traditions followed with Vince McMahon. He tried to look out for certain people as well. And then, you've got Triple H, Paul Levesque. He's a wrestler, so you would like to believe that, he's one of the boys and he's going to try to do his best to look out for the boys. If you were to ask me straight up, Lee, do you feel Triple H was blindsided by this and he had no say, that this was all pretty much TKO? Like, no, I refuse to believe that. I believe at the end of the day, there were individuals within TKO that basically is following the money. And they basically, went to Nick Khan and Triple H and was like, these people need to go. These are the ones that need to go. Like, that's it. And I don't think that Triple H, I don't think, contrary to how it might have been a couple of years ago, I don't think Triple H could have done, I don't think there's anything he could have remotely done that would have been humanly possible to try to continue to have New Day, whatever money that they wanted, hey, let's give them their money. I don't think if Triple H were to even fight for these guys, it wouldn't happen. And I need people to understand that at the end of the day, whether you like what's been happening with the creative direction in WWE or not, no matter how you personally may feel with Triple H, Paul Levesque, and the creative and all of that, I need you to understand that the way TKO is trying to structure themselves, and it basically trumps all. They are all about bringing in as much money as they can possibly generate for their events while paying their talents as little as possible. And if you have been following the world of MMA for a good number of years, you know this to be true because you know how they operate with the UFC. For all the crazy shit and personal feelings that some people have about Ronda Rousey, her criticism of the UFC is very, very on point. I mean, we just saw all these numbers that WWE was talking about for WrestleMania and all the great tax breaks. I mean, it would make your head spin if we were to just go over right now why WWE/TKO basically was like, we're going to do back-to-back WrestleMania in Las Vegas. The amount of tax breaks that these guys were able to get. And when you look at why talent had stayed at that particular hotel and just the connections to ultimately the TKO, how it all loops back. And they are all about TKO. They are all about maximizing profits as much as humanly possible while trying to do their best to pay the bare minimum to their talents. And this trend continues with WWE, unfortunately. And it makes me sick. You know, what you're seeing right now that particularly happened to guys like New Day, what you've seen that's happened to the other talents that were released within the past week and a half. You know, it's a prime example of, you know, now do you kind of understand why Jesse Ventura back in the day was trying to have the boys get unionized because of shit like this? You know, why you had certain individuals, guaranteed money. That's what this needs to be all about. Just, you know, no matter what, you know, we at least we have the guaranteed money, right? Now do you understand why Jesse Ventura and so many people that came after him, you know, why they were trying to do what they could to make the business be overall better. But here's the problem: when you have individuals that go, well, you know, I don't really want to rock the boat. You may want to unionize, you know, us, and you may not like what you're getting money wise and all that, but I'm not going to rock the boat because I'm eating good, my family's eating good. Yeah, fuck that. You can fly solo. And that's that mindset. That's the mindset. You know, I'm good. You know, shit don't affect me. I'm all right. You know, in a perfect world, when you see guys like Xavier Woods, Kofi Kingston, and insert whatever other names, you know, in a perfect world, you would have a bunch of wrestlers that would go, oh, so Monday Night Raw is going to be in Omaha, huh? Well, not if we have anything to say about that. Ain't no show tonight. What TK going to do? Seriously, you know, like in a perfect world, you ain't got none of your wrestlers that decided they want to show up for Raw and SmackDown. What are you gonna do? You gonna just blow the whole fucking rosters up between all the shows and, you know, basically tap into what are you gonna do? You're gonna go, okay, what can we do? What can we do to like resolve this as quick as possible and get you guys, you know, back out there? Like, what the hell? And you see the other issue, and we've kind of talked about this off and on over the years as well. You know, WWE, you know, we got guys like Paul Heyman and a few others. Oh, WWE Raw should should be part of the Emmys. Our storyline with the Bloodline, our storyline with, you know, it should be nominated for an Emmy and all this. Here's the thing: be careful what you wish for, because if your WWE talents across all the shows, NXT, SmackDown, Raw, if all of those shows were to be looked at as, you know, hey, yeah, for your Emmy consideration, if they were to be looked upon as television shows in the category of drama, comedy, you know, insert, then guess what? Now every single one of those talents on your roster would need to look into paying dues with SAG and other areas, right? And that's the last thing you want, because when you start going down that fucking slope, then you can go, okay, well, hey, I've paid my dues. I paid my little fee. I'm not feeling what's going on here with the conditions working for WWE or insert. I'm boycotting until this shit changes. It baffles my mind that in fucking 2026, you know, when I look at companies like WWE, which is now under TKO and just, you know, other organizations, that this is still an issue as far as unionizing and all that other shit. It just baffles my mind. What happened with New Day, it should not have happened. It should have been a case of, and I know I've seen some really poor analogies that's being put out there that, you know, well, hey, look at what happens in basketball. Look at what happens with football, you know. First of all, those are the worst takes, because the basketball that I have come to grow up and love, it has changed drastically. There used to be a time back in the day where a basketball player, you know, they signed their contract and they honored that contract. And when it was time for them to renegotiate and they decided they wanted to go play elsewhere, they were able to do that. Now you've got NBA players that throw a hissy fit after playing about 20 games and they just inked a deal to play with a team for like 3 years or whatever. But the first 20 games don't go their fucking way. And they're like, I don't want to play no more. I want you to move me to another team right now. And it's like, and they're being coddled. It's not a case where it's like, no. You inked this 3-year deal. So we've got you for 3 years, whether you like it or not. You need to play. And I'm not playing. No. I've played with you all for 20 games now, and this doesn't work for me. I want out. And you got these people that are basically caving in and fucking no. It's like the fucking contract says what it says. Clear as day. You see what's happening in the NFL. And the NFL, my God, the NFL is funny because if you get a player that maybe wants out or some weird shit or maybe the organization is just going, we got to get rid of this player. Then it's a case where it's like this club will talk to this club and then they're trying to facilitate some type of deal. And then in some instances, they may end up going to a third organization to get a little bit of help. And that third organization is like, well, what's in it for me? What do you want? Well, if you are willing to give me a draft pick and you over here are willing to give me a draft pick, then we'll absorb the rest to make this trade happen. Like, I get what some of these people are saying when they do the comparisons to NBA or NFL, but that shit don't apply to the world of pro wrestling, sadly. It just doesn't apply. It's almost like the wild, wild west in the world of pro wrestling. And in this new era, when it comes to TKO, if I'm TKO, I'm not going, let me see if New Day, assuming the reports are true, I'm not saying the New Day, lower your asking price. Bring your price down. What's the lowest you went? No, I'm not going to come to them with that. What I'm going to fucking do instead, how many writers do we have? That's part of WWE. And this was the best that they could give us leading into this year's WrestleMania. Maybe the problem is with some of my writers, right? If these people are getting paid X amount of money, why do we have them sitting on the fucking sideline, hardly doing anything when they should be out there? Like, we need to be making them a priority. We just inked them to a new deal. Why are they sitting on their ass, playing their video games and doing all kinds of other side projects when we should be having them earning every single fucking dollar of this new deal that we just gave them, the new mandate to creative write shit for these guys? Which brings me to this point. If you're creative, and that includes ChatGPT, if they cannot come up with anything new for the new day, then maybe they are the problem and new writers need to be brought in. Because I promise you, and this is where WWE/TKO needs to be like, well, let's see what people are coming up with on these WWE 2K games. They usually come up with some really cool stories. Let's go on YouTube. Let's see, like, if you need inspiration, if you need motivation, it's not that hard to find it. I literally was thinking about this before the news even broke out. I said, how cool would it be? Like, I know New Day's been kind of dormant for a little bit and everything, but I was going, how cool would it be if New Day were to take in some new blood, right? They were able to bring in some new members. I know the whole Odyssey Jones thing. I never was invested in Odyssey Jones, and it's interesting how all that played out the way that it did. But what if New Day would have brought in Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins? You know, not for nothing, but if you can't have Big E anymore, that would have been a very nice comparable, right? That would have been a very nice, okay. It's not Big E, but it's its own unique flavor, right? It's its own unique flavor. Street Profits are still, you know, they're doing their thing, but now they're incorporated with the New Day, right? They're now officially New Day. Oh, that might actually, that could actually go somewhere. That could actually go somewhere, right? And I'm sure some of you guys have probably, especially with this news that came about, have probably brainstormed and said, "Yo, I could have thought of like a couple of guys that would have been a good replacement for Big E and you know, yeah, you could have kept it running. You could have kept it going. Sure as hell seemed like when Big E had stepped in a while back and was trying to help give a shock to the system there, it sure as hell seemed like New Day was getting ready to really pop. And then it just took a complete nosedive. Like, so, like, that still just has me scratching my head to this day, just wondering, like, obviously you guys did not think about a beginning and a middle and an end right here. So, like, why did you even pop off the way that you did to begin with if you didn't have a middle and an end? You're right. But, like, New Day, as bad as it is for New Day and its fans, I'm also looking at this from a more positive perspective. This is good for Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. This is good because you shouldn't have to work for a company where you're basically told, this is what we think of you. This is the value. You may have worked up over the years and your value is this, but we're only willing to give you this. And I can tell you this, in the Sanders household, we don't operate like that. And I challenge any one of you guys to try to do your best to not operate that way in your life. Don't settle for less, right? My motto for years has always been, is especially when my beautiful wife had came along when she did, and she, you know, really started challenging me to think more outside of the box and just, you know, she pretty much told me straight up in a serious conversation we had many years ago when we first started dating. You know, she was like, you only get one run around the sun, you know, as far as life goes. She's like, you know, squeeze the fuck out of every single drop you can get it out of it. No regrets. Right? So when you got somebody coming at you and telling you like, this is the value, right? It's less than, nah, we ain't doing that. Not in the Sanders household. And obviously with Xavier and Kofi, they're like, nah, we ain't playing that shit. And I know some people are going to be like, well, it's easier. It's easy for guys like you to say that, you know, and yeah, granted, you know, because it could come down to, well, what type of resources do you have that's at your disposal? It can come down to, you know, as far as income and wealth. There is a big difference between income and wealth. I'm not going to bore you guys. Look it up if you don't know the difference. But you should be in a position where you don't look yourself in the mirror and go, I wonder what if I would have did this? What if I would have did that? And these guys are obviously in a position, and rightfully so, where they're going, okay, you trying to tell me one thing, right? I mean, really think about that in layman's terms. Just imagine you're in a position. I mean, because when you apply this to the real world, and this really, really hits close to home. And I know what I'm about to say is going to really hit close to home for a lot of you guys, right? But think about this for a second. You've been working for the same employer for like, let's just say 20 years. The money is fucking good, right? It's you're paying your bills. You got your mortgage, like all of that, right? Maybe you're making, I don't know, maybe your yearly salary, maybe you're doing about 95,000 to about 115,000 a year, right? And maybe the bosses sit you down and they go, look, we appreciate all the work that you've been doing for us through the years. We gotta restructure some of these salaries though, and you're on the list, and we know, what was the number I just gave you guys, like 95,000 to like 115,000. Let's just say 100,000. Paul, we're restructuring here. We're trying to help the company save some money, and we need you to take a pay cut. Would you be willing to go down from your 100,000? Could we get you to come down to 70,000? So think about that for a second. At this point in your life, you're doing 100,000 a year. You're doing, depending on where you live, let's just assume you're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good. You're definitely building wealth, right? You're doing pretty good. But now you got an employer saying to you, cough up $30,000 back. And you're like, nah, man, I fucking earned every single dollar. And, you're not asking me to trim off like $5,000. You're asking for 30, and like I'm doing okay. You're going to be mad. Especially with all the years of service that you put in and all of that shit. You're at a crossroads. Do you go, okay, yeah. Okay, sure. You want to knock me down to 70K? Okay, sure. Or do you go, well, my resume, my body of work, it speaks for itself. And if these guys are going to operate the way that they're going to operate, well, then let me just try to go see, if I can make that same money with another company, since these guys are going to try to do me, right? That's real world talk, right? It's not all, body slams. And I like talking about shit like this because for me, this is more interesting than watching a typical episode of Monday Night Raw, because this is real world talk that we're having right here, right? And I know some of you young people, you're out there, you're gonna go through many jobs. Those of you that's under 30, you're gonna go through so many jobs before you find your true calling, your true passion, your career path. You're gonna go through at least 15 to 20 jobs, I promise you, before you find, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. This is what I want to thrive at. This is what I want to make my money in. This is what's up. And when you find it, you're gonna be in love with it. You're gonna nurture it. You're gonna be just the guru of that, and you're gonna thrive in that very well. And here is what we had with Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston, the Bootios. And, I think I still got their box of cereal floating. I never opened it. I got it floating around here somewhere, right? I mean, these guys were printing money. They were doing all kinds of fun shit back in the day. Yeah, it sucked when Big E got fucking injured. But you know what? It wasn't the end of the world. Just because Big E got injured, it didn't mean that, well, all right, well, guess New Day's dead. I mean, just really stop and think about that from a wrestling standpoint. Just really stop and think about that. I remember when Shawn Michaels walked away from WWE, when he pretty much walked away from DX and all of that shit for whatever respected reasons. I remember me and my friends were like, oh man, what does this mean for DX? Because for us, DX was Shawn Michaels. And we're like, well, fuck, if Shawn Michaels is no longer, well, that means like DX is done. Like, well, DX is gonna suck now. And then we remember when Triple H, when he took over as the new leader of DX, we were like, no, it's not the same, man. We ain't got Shawn Michaels in there. It ain't the same. Some of us, Triple H is kind of boring. But then, in time, we were like, nah, you know what? DX under Triple H is actually better to a certain degree. To quote one of my favorite Queen songs, the show must go on. Somehow they were able to go on. So like, I don't know. I don't want to get off on a rant, but like I just feel like at many times I just feel like WWE didn't try harder. And now we're doing this lame ass if they're not gonna take the cut, well then we're off the hook because we at TKO, we basically we can, if the fans want to come at us, we can basically say, well, we tried. We tried, so they can stay face. Fuck out of here. I want to read to you guys a comment that came from Kofi Kingston, I believe. Yeah, Kofi Kingston. Hang on here. I'm going to pull it up right now. Look under bookmarks. I'm going to find it for you guys. I am almost there. By the way, there was some misinformation that was going about with Roman Reigns, some advertised Raw episode dates in June. Shout out to Mike Johnson. Basically, what you were seeing floating around of those Roman Reigns appearances in June, that was a clerical error on TKO WWE side, as those were not ever confirmed dates that he was supposed to be working. And contrary to the reports that's unfortunately now floating around out there, it's not a case of an issue between Roman Reigns and the company or an issue with the deal he signed leading up to WrestleMania 42. I would imagine, though, seeing Tanga Loa, being shown the door and all that, might have rubbed him the wrong way a little bit. Also, there's a report floating around about a pretty majority push talent was reportedly asked to take a 50% pay cut last week and allegedly did. The name of the talent is unknown, as it cannot be confirmed 100% that this was the case, but the timing of that claim was interesting, as it took place a day before news broke of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods' departure. That was also noted by PW Insider. So here's what Kofi had to say. This is a little lengthy, so you got to bear with me here. He says, it's taken me 2 full days to respond to all my texts. Hadn't been on social media until today, and I'm overwhelmed by all the messages here too. So much love. So I can't help but be filled completely with gratitude. My story has been nothing short of remarkable, and I am truly blessed to have had such an illustrious accolade, laden, and most importantly, fun-filled career. I made my childhood dream become the most wonderful reality. Throughout this journey, I'm so thankful to have been surrounded by great friends, to have built so many unbreakable connections with people that I'm very proud to call my family. Most people go through life without ever experiencing a love like I have for Woods and E. That bond alone would have made this whole experience worth it. There are far too many people to mention by name here, but to everyone who has ever supported me, guided me, helped me, taught me, cheered for me, praised me, stood up for me, and even rooted against me, thank you. I appreciate you more than words can say. My main mission has always been a simple one: to provide a comfortable life filled with heartwarming memories for my family. and largely in part to all of you. I can probably say that I have achieved that goal and more. This wasn't supposed to be a novel, so let me wind it down with some advice. Do your best to live a life without regrets. Amen, brother. Amen. Control what you control. Always give it your all and fight hard for what you believe in. Fucking this is like my spiritual brother. He's telling no lies right here. This is literally how I live life every day. Do not. I want to. When I read this part, I was like, gospel right here. This is what I was talking about a few minutes ago. Do not ever compromise or accept less than your due when it comes to your worth. I want to read that again. I really want to make sure this really, really hits home with you people. Do not ever compromise or accept less than your due when it comes to your worth. I see so many people fall into this trap where they feel like, okay, I'm in this position and that's it. Like it's I gotta accept. No, you don't. You don't have to accept it. The minute that you say, I need to change this, first of all, you're getting the ball rolling just by saying that out loud. By saying that out loud, you're already on the right path to a better you, a better version of you, a better tomorrow, just a better set of circumstances. You're already on the path by admitting that, right? Remember that. Do not ever compromise or accept less than your due when it comes to your worth. And he's not talking about dollar signs. He's talking about self-worth, right? Because at the end of the day, once you know your worth, can't nobody come along and tell you anything different. And if they try to come along and tell you something different, then you definitely need to get yourself out of that situation and gravitate towards where your worth is recognized. I've had a few conversations with my wife about this, and I say to her, because I won't get into it here on the show, but I'll let her tell the story if she wants to. But there's been a couple of times over the years where she's been a little bit frustrated with her job because she feels overworked, but the money is really, really good and everything. And she has inquired about, some places, that say that they're hiring and all that. I'll give you an example. One time, this was like a couple of weeks ago, there was this one place that hit her up. They wanted to do a job interview with her. And I told her, I asked her, I said, well, where are these people located exactly? And she told me, I said, oh, these guys aren't even off of the Metro bus and rail. So what does that tell you? She's like, probably not going to be that much traffic at that practice. I said, exactly. I was like, and for the salary that you're commanding and the location where these guys are, they're not going to be able to afford you. So even if you're able to get whatever hours you're looking for, you're able to get this day or days off, it's not going to be worth it if your salary is going to be drastically cut, which it will be if you were to work with these people. And all we were talking about was a working interview, but I was trying to help her think a couple of moves ahead and everything. And most importantly, save her on her time, her resources, and all of that, right? And I said to her, I said, know your worth. Why compromise your worth? She's like, yeah, that's a good point. She ended up telling these people, hey, I appreciate you. It's the thought that counts. I know. But I don't know if she said, I don't think you guys can afford me, but somehow she kind of, let it be known she wasn't interested, and just, she had concerns that, salary wise, they wouldn't be able to afford her or whatever. She said it in a really nice way, because I also told her, I said, don't beat around the bush. Like, don't have your time wasted and their time wasted. Find out what the salary is. They wasn't trying to tell her what the salary is. They were trying to get her to come in the door and all that. And so she told them, thanks, but no thanks. And then they were like, oh, well, we're just curious, what is your salary? And she told them. And they were like, okay, thank you. And I told her, see? I said, what I tell you? I said, what I tell you? She said, you said they couldn't afford it. I said, and I said, yeah, no, you were right. I was like, exactly. I was like, so why even, you shouldn't even be entertaining compromising. Looping it back to what Kofi is saying, like, don't fucking compromise. Don't accept less when you know your worth. Why would anybody do that? Like, seriously, that makes no sense. It makes no sense. He goes on to say, find the courage to believe in yourself, fucking A, and fearlessly pursue your goals and dreams because anything is possible. Is Kofi telling any lies right here? If I have had like any longtime listeners of this show, this almost, and I'm really not exaggerating when I say this, this dude is literally saying shit that I have like said to you guys over the years. He really is. And if you checked out my show enough, you know my story. You know everything that I've gone through in my personal life to be at the point in my life where I am right now. This guy is definitely telling no fucking lies, as he goes on to say, the kid that was too small, short, skinny, and scrawny was never supposed to make it in this land of giants, yet here we are. And so, as the sun sets on one chapter, so too must it rise in another. Tomorrow is indeed a new day. Good shit right there. Both of these guys put out some really, really good stuff, man. Seriously. These guys are going to be all right. I know that people in AEW, they're like, yo, Tony Khan, you got to get these guys in here, man. You got to get these guys. Yes, like there would be dream matches left and right. Without a doubt. Would I love to see Xavier and Kofi do something with New Day? As New Day, would I just love to see these guys in general do something with AEW? Yes, I would. But there's also a part of me that is like hoping these men remain free agents and they just, because what the free agency market, the indies, what it needs right now is that fresh shot of adrenaline. It needs a resurgence right now. And I really, really hope and pray that guys like Kofi and Xavier, they really pay it forward. And I'm not saying they compromise themselves, that they accept less. But what I am saying is, this creates a very unique opportunity for them to really help the industry as a whole versus just going to the next big high paying promoter, right? You've already have been in one long-term relationship with a promotion. How about you just spread yourself out there? Pull up at Cardona, pull a Cody Rhodes, bank on yourself for a handful of years and, make the magic, make the sparks fly, right? I would love it if they would do that. Of all the people that have been released, I would really, really love it if they would go in that direction. But I tell you what, if they end up, fuck it, and they just go to AEW, it's a great grab. It is definitely a great grab, a great boost for their tag team division. Definitely a great boost as far as single championship aspirations there, for sure. But like these guys are in such a unique position where they got the whole world in the palm of their hands. And whether it's a case where all these years that they've been doing what they've been doing, without a shadow of a doubt, they've made their respected network of connections and all that. If they decide, yo, let's just do a podcast and, we can just, through all the people that we know, have them come through and then, we could be wrestling whenever, wherever, they can really take their fucking time and let everything play out however it's going to play out. They don't have to just rush and go right to another company. I know everybody's like AEW, AEW. Oh man, the Young Bucks, oh man, FTR, oh man, insert, I get it. Trust me. I'm thinking about some of the tag team matchups that awaits, but I'm looking at a much grander scale and I'm going, yo, these guys could do something in GCW. Yo, these guys could do a drive-by in TNA. Yo, these guys could do a drive-by in the NWA. Yo, these guys could do something like insert. But this is a good thing for them because if they do this just right, not only is it a shot of new adrenaline and a revitalization for them, but definitely it gives that same boost and everything for the respective promotion that they would be messing around with as well. Definitely a big win for them breaking away from TKO / WWE. Really makes you wonder what's going to happen with this current incarnation of WWE in the next 3 to 4 years. Remember what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago? That it just seems so odd to see Stephanie McMahon be inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame and everything. And I told you guys, I said, it really makes me wonder if Triple H and Stephanie, if they were still going to be around in about 3 to 4 years, or if there were going to be some new people put in their place. Remember, I teased this some weeks back, and I told you guys my spidey sense, just kind of tingling a little bit here, right? If all this can happen with New Day, and some others. I remember there was one WWE employee that had been with the company for about 25 years. They were given their walking papers as well. Like, if all of these people that's got like 20 plus years, like, you can't help but look at Triple H, Paul Levesque, and go, is this guy really safe? Is he really safe? Like, legit, is he really safe? I don't think so. Hey, before we get ready to dip out of here, I want to take this time out and thank some of our show sponsors, because without them, content like what you're checking out right now would not be made possible. We did a nice little deluxe edition for you guys. We should have been off the air a long time ago, but I felt like giving you guys a nice little deluxe edition, considering everything that went down and all. First off, as far as our show sponsors, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Questions for Cancer Doctors at Q4CD.com. If you or someone you know has recently been diagnosed with prostate cancer, before making treatment decisions, get clarity from someone who's been there. At Q4CD.com, you can speak to Dr. Williams, who's a retired lieutenant colonel and radiation oncologist, helps men and veterans understand their options and ask the right questions before moving forward. When you go to that website, there's a PDF booklet of very useful information that will be most helpful. And I know it'll be most helpful. You probably may end up wanting to schedule a one-on-one consultation, which I definitely would recommend you do afterwards. Check them out, Q4CD.com, because the right questions lead to the right decisions. The RCWR show with Lee Sanders is brought to you also in part by our friends at Whisper UTC. I want you guys to check out the for my streaming audience. There is a, where is it? No, not that one. Hang on, guys. There is a image. Hang on here. It may have not loaded up in time, sadly. I'm trying to see if I have it. No, and they hooked me up with it too. They gave me a really cool QR code, and it's not loading up. It didn't load up on this computer. It did load up on the other computer. That's fine. I'll make sure that for the next show, we have it loaded up on here. But shout out to our friends over at Whisper UTC. Right now, they've got a big spring sale that's underway. Last day of it is May 5th. Right now, you can get up to 75% off of this game, where if you're a fan of tabletop, role-playing, combat games, this lightweight system, it delivers fast-paced, stylish, urban tactical combat that hits hard, very hard. Make sure you grab your copy of Whisper UTC. It's a character-focused experience, giving you freedom to shape your play style with deep customization options. Build your crew, dive in. You can choose from 46 unique classes. Grab that game. Go to drivethrurpg.com. Once again, that's drivethrurpg.com. I'll make sure that besides the links available in the episode description of this very episode, I'll definitely make sure if you follow me throughout social media, we have that QR code up for you and everything. But check them out. Cool sponsors of the show. Without them, content like what you're checking out right now would not be made possible. As far as programming notes go, I was talking with Tams yesterday, because we were supposed to do a wrestling with the topics over the weekend, and we ended up not doing it because I was working on some on a video assignment, so that was taking up most of my time. But I said to her, how would you feel about maybe doing something Tuesday? And she said, yeah, we could definitely, yeah, let's play that by ear. I think I might be down with Tuesday. I said, okay, bet. So I think Tuesday we're going to sit down, and I don't know if we're going to go live. That's the thing. I don't know if we're going to go live, but I think we might end up doing something tomorrow. So as long as you're staying connected throughout social media, you guys will know what's going on. But in the meantime, be kind. I will be with you guys for the Backlash post show, the way Backlash is looking right now. And I'll get into predictions later in the week for the card. But the way Backlash is looking right now, John Cena is going to be coming back. I guess he's the host of Backlash, and he's going to have some type of an announcement. I don't know what the hell that's going to consist of. Your guess is as good as mine. I'm not really expecting anything earth-shattering. Maybe the launch date for Club WWE. I don't know. But right now, we got 5 matches. Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker. Let's see. IYO SKY versus Asuka. I mean, those are 2 really good matches so far. Trick Williams defends the United States Championship against Sami Zayn. That should be a damn good one. Love what's been happening with Sami Zayn, Gingerbread Man, and I can't believe that we're doing a Gingerbread Man funeral this coming Friday on SmackDown. That's gonna be okay. Danhausen with a mystery tag partner will be taking on The Miz and Kit Wilson, who will be teaming with Danhausen. That is the $1 million question. Maybe it'll be CM Punk. Just saying. Roman Reigns defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Jacob Fatu. So those are your 5 matches. Now also remember this. ESPN2 is going to be getting the first hour of Backlash. Remember that. And then the rest of it, pretty much like WrestleMania, is going to be on the main ESPN and Unlimited app, right? Yeah, I know. Some of you guys are like, fuck. So that basically means you're going to get guaranteed 2 matches for that ESPN2 first hour of Backlash. And then you're going to get the 3 matches. Yeah, that's just, yeah. I don't know about that. But those are your 5 matches. I would imagine there's probably going to be something else that's going to be squeezed in there. I personally would love it if they could maybe get 1 more or 2 more matches in there, but that's why I'm not doing match predictions right now, because what I want to try to do is see if anything might get announced as we get maybe around Wednesday. See if maybe something might get announced around there. But I highly doubt it. Way I'm looking at this right now, I'm probably going to end up throwing some predictions out there. I would say probably Friday. I'll throw some predictions up because I'm like that confident. I'm going to wait till Friday, but I'm that confident that the matches as it stands tonight at the time of this recording, it ain't going to change. So, but I mean, on paper, I'm just looking at some of these matches. 4 of these matches look very, very promising. 4 of these matches look very, very promising, I got to say. All right, guys, it is 12:34 in the morning over here on the East Coast, and I've got classes in a handful of hours. So, programming note, Backlash, the post show this weekend. I'll be live as soon as that event wraps up. Tune in for that. Me and Tams will be sitting down at some time before then for a new Wrestling with the Topics, because she definitely had told me she wanted to talk about some of these WWE releases as well. And we do need to get into thoughts about the newest Hulk Hogan documentary on Netflix. So we'll definitely be talking about that as well. So look forward to that. Meantime, I want you to be kind, rewind, check out previous episodes you may have missed for on demand and on the downloads. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search the RCWR show. You can get at me on Twitter, Facebook. Use keywords, the RCWR show. Show some love to the YouTube channel, by the way, youtube.com/the RCWR show. Make sure if you haven't done so already, you subscribe over there. Love to have you on board. And until next go round, my pretty babies, wishing all of y'all to be safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. I will see you guys next go round. Take care.